We are live and welcome everybody. My name's Tim Wagner. Welcome to another conversation that counts on a Monday, every Monday, 1 o'clock South African Central Time, where I go online live and I share something that I've discovered in the past week that was quite impactful, or perhaps a conversation I had with one of my clients who's going through my professional pointer program, or perhaps even from stage that I was speaking to some people. And the past week, during a networking event, it occurred to me how many people struggle to identify and explain who they are, not what they do or why they do it. And that led me to thinking, I know exactly what it is that I'm going to be sharing with you this week. So, hang on, let's get this going properly here now. There we are. When you meet somebody for the first time, you ask, what do you do? Now, why do you ask that? Well, typically it's because you're trying to start a conversation, find a connection, a common rapport between yourself and that person that you can then build on and break through that uncomfortable space. You know the one I'm talking about. Now, if they turn around and say, I'm a software ninja, and you've got no interest in computers or even what that is, you may find yourself getting a little bit stuck. So what if you ask them, well, why are you a software ninja? Or better yet, who have you become as a result of being a software ninja? Let me break this down for you, and I'm going to start with the late, great Jim Rohn, where what he says is success is not to be pursued. There is it. Success is not to be pursued. It is to be attracted by the person you become. My terminologies, attracted by the person who you become. And that's what I want to break down a little bit today. Let's reflect on this. Why do you do what you do? The what being your business or your industry. When I was 19, I went into hospitality. That was the way that I figured that I would start out my career and work. And the reason I did that is because of travel. I had a huge passion for international travel, and I figured that was universal language. Makes sense. By the age of 27, I was still within the industry, and it became about building a career. I was married, new son, and so for 13 years, I aggressively built a solid career and climbed that proverbial ladder. When it came to my 40s, it was not about the career as much. I was not interested in a title or certificates and awards anymore. I'd been there and moved past that. Now it was about financials. I had a full-time job, and also I had part-time, let's call them side hustles, generating additional cash flow. I was heavily incentivized in the corporate position that I was running, and I was also driven financially and would want to achieve no matter what. But somewhere along my life's journey, I got lost. And getting lost resulted in burnout. That's why I left the corporate industry over 6 years ago now, or corporate world. But what had changed? Had the industry changed? The staff, the government policies, the seasons, the demands, the clients? No. Or had I changed? So when I looked back now at what it is that I was actually doing, and having over the last few years taken 14 years of coaching, speaking, and mentoring, and combined this into a signature program that I call my professional pointer program, I started to understand what had gone wrong with me all those years ago and what had created so much stress in my life. But I always felt that there was something missing within my coaching when I was talking to people. And as it turned out, when I had this clarity of mind, it's actually spoken about quite a lot, but not broken down into as much detail as I felt was necessary. So from this, I created a framework to understand it better. It's a very simple idea. And I think I used a lot of inspiration from Simon Sinek. He wrote the book Begins with Why, or Starts with Why, and then with Dr. John DeMartini and his value principles, and Joe Dispenza and all his teaching and his mindfulness approaches as well. That from this, I created what I call the Self Centric Cycle. Now, this idea explains it's not about what you do, it's not about how you do it, or even why you're doing it, but it's about who you become as a result of doing it. The self centric cycle is a continuous cyclic interconnection with yourself at the center, and it emphasizes the journey and importance of personal development, that it all begins your identity and your personal transformation with who you are now and who you ultimately would like to become. So, putting who you are at the center of all your thoughts, all your actions, and all of your growth. This process of understanding and developing your personal identity is paramount. And I feel that having attended many personal development programs, as I'm sure most of you have done before, when was the first time or the last time they actually started with understanding who you are? It's like that GPS. The GPS, when you open up a GPS, say, I want to drive to this destination, wherever it is, the GPS knows where you are now. But if you want to grow into becoming a different person, creating a new version of your personal reality to grow, if you don't know who you are fundamentally, now, before you start, how are you meant to get there? Like the GPS says, you are here. If the GPS doesn't know where you are, you're not going to get very far. Now, when I talk about this who, I'm talking about who you are, not by the societal program version, but your deep seated values, your purpose, your inner truth. And if you don't know who you are now and embrace yourself fully for all your imperfections, mistakes, misgivings, errors that you've made in your life, then how are you meant to become a different version, grow, creating a new version of yourself in order to be able to develop and move on? So when we have a look, which is what Simon Sinek talks about, where he speaks about your why, your how, and your what, when we break down the why, some of you, but surprisingly very few, know why you're doing what you're doing. I've got an exercise within my program that helps to identify that deep-seated, heartfelt reason, what drives you. And it's not money. It's not a house. These are the results from the what that you do. But I'm talking about your deep-seated purpose, your inner driving reason that gets you out of bed in the morning. Once you know who you are and you align this with your why, that's when you become unstoppable. This is when feelings of stress and anxiety become a thing of the past and are easy to handle. So when you have a look at the what, every person knows what they do. Every business knows what product they sell. I'm a speaker, I'm a coach, I'm a plumber, an electrician. That's what you do. Everybody knows this. Easy to speak about. That's why we ask people, what do you do? The how is the actual activity. How you do it falls into place automatically when you know who you are and why you do what it is that you do. This becomes automatic. It's sort of like it discovers you, as the how is immaterial when you know why you want to do it. How you're going to get to who you want to be, your ultimate goals, your ultimate dreams, your ultimate personal reality, becomes immaterial when you're driven by who and why. And that to me was a great awakening point. So using the cycle demonstrates that this is not linear, right? This is a continuous, ongoing loop of interconnection and influence among the components of who, why, how, and what. So it becomes a cyclic nature, signifying that your personal development is an evolving process, and for each aspect will influence and ever change the others in a continuous cycle. For instance, as you understand who you are deepens, so then you may redefine your why it is that you're doing something, which in turn will alter how you do it and what you're actually doing, which then connects back to changing who you are, as who you are is not stagnant. It's a permanent change that is being interconnected to why, how, and what, permanently adapts and evolves. So the centric cycle model suggests far more of a holistic perspective to growth, where development of personal identity is all stemmed from the starting point of who you are, the middle point, and the ultimate outcome of who you are. As you change who you are, so your dreams and desires and goals change. So why you're doing it changes, which influences how you're doing and what you're actually doing. It's an evolving, ever evolving process of self development, of actions, where each step feeds closer and deeper into understanding who you are. Now, if I take this to let's paint an example here. Let me explain this a little bit. If you want to live a more harmonious life, you need to work from the inside out, ensuring that the external environment that you're working in, how you're doing and what you're doing, is aligned to who you are and why you're doing what you're doing. If there's a misalignment, like when I was working in corporate and hospitality, there was a misalignment to my truth. That's where you get stressed. That's where you get negative energy. Because stress is an emotional and internal emotional response to external circumstances around you. So when I was operating outside of who I was, which is not financially driven, yes, I want money and a bigger house, but it's not my key driving why. When I'm operating outside of this, that's where I created stress in my world, which is why I could no longer handle the daily stresses, which in business had never really changed. So while I could not change who I am or who I was, I could change the reason why I was doing that business. Instead of it being to run this hospitality business for financials, but I could do it to access people for personal development, for training, for service, for other business reasons apart from financial. So the next time you're feeling stressed, not motivated by the task ahead or what it is that you're actually doing or procrastinating on it, go back to why am I doing what I'm doing in the first place? And notice if there's a misalignment with who you are. Then you've got three choices. You do it anyway, suck it up, can't cause stress. You drop it, you say it's not necessary, or outsource it, meaning get somebody else who's passionate about this to do it for you. All the while understanding that your feelings of stress are merely signs. All that emotional reaction to the external world is a signal, a sign that you're going on the wrong path. Choose to ignore it at your peril. As Joe Dispenza says, you will need a new personality to create a new personal reality. In other words, influence the world around you by changing who you are. So next time you see a fresh face at a party or a meeting or a dinner, don't ask what they do. Ask who have they become by what they do, and see where the conversation takes you next. Remember, I'm live every Monday at 1 p.m. South African time as part of the Pathfinders community. So if you're not in the community, click the link below. Register for the free community, a community of like-minded people wanting to find their path and work together so you never have to feel alone, uninspired, or uninformed about options that are available for you to design your life and no longer leave it up to default. So I look forward to seeing you within the community. Please share, please like, please comment. Ciao for now. Until next Monday.